She pushes your buttons. She tests your patience. She wants a reaction. Most men fail right here. They get emotional. They argue. They chase. And the moment they lose control, they lose power. But strong men move differently. Today you'll learn 5 powerful ways to handle women who provoke you without losing your respect, your frame, or your peace. Comment, I control my emotions. Number 1. Stay calm. The first thing she wants is your reaction. She knows the moment your emotions take control, your logic disappears, your discipline weakens, and your focus shifts completely onto her behavior instead of your own life. And that is exactly why she pushes, pulls away, goes cold, ignores messages, changes her energy without explanation, acts distant after showing interest, or suddenly becomes disrespectful after once treating you well, because she is watching closely to see if your emotional state depends on her attention. And many men fail this test instantly, because the second she changes, they panic internally. They stop focusing on their goals. They stop sleeping properly. They replay conversations in their head all night. They stare at their phones waiting for replies. They become irritated at work, distracted in the gym, emotionally unstable around friends, and slowly their entire life starts revolving around one woman's behavior, while she calmly watches the effect she has on them. And what destroys many men is not her actions, but their inability to control themselves when faced with uncertainty, because calmness is not weakness. Calmness is power under pressure. Calmness is discipline in moments where emotions beg for control. And the reason she respects the calm man is because he becomes impossible to manipulate emotionally, since she cannot predict him anymore. She cannot pull emotional reactions from him anymore. She cannot make him abandon his self-respect just because she changes her mood. And this is where Stoic thinking changes your entire life, because you begin understanding that not everything deserves your energy, not every message deserves a reply, not every disrespect deserves an argument, and not every emotional impulse deserves action. You start learning how to pause before speaking, how to stay silent instead of defending yourself emotionally, how to observe people carefully instead of instantly reacting to them. And once you master this, something powerful happens inside you because your emotions stop controlling your decisions, and that changes everything about the way people treat you, especially women, because she expects emotional weakness. She expects impulsive behavior. She expects you to become angry, desperate, needy, jealous, controlling, or emotionally unstable the moment she changes her energy. And when you refuse to give her that reaction, her confidence starts collapsing, because now she realizes she cannot control your state of mind anymore. And many men never understand this because they think strength means dominance, loudness, aggression, or proving themselves constantly. But real strength is emotional control. Real strength is staying centered while chaos surrounds you. Real strength is protecting your peace while somebody tries to disturb it, because every time you react emotionally to her behavior, you hand over your power willingly, and she immediately sees that your emotional stability depends on her approval, which lowers her respect for you instantly, even if she never says it directly, because women naturally test emotional strength through pressure, distance, silence, mixed signals, emotional inconsistency, and subtle disrespect. And the weak response is always emotional chasing, while the powerful response is calm detachment. And this does not mean becoming cold or heartless. It means refusing to lose yourself over somebody else's behavior. It means understanding that your purpose, discipline, health, money, mindset, and future matter more than temporary emotional confusion. And once you truly understand this, you stop reacting to every little thing she does, because you finally see clearly that emotional reactions destroy more men than heartbreak itself. You begin moving differently, speaking differently, thinking differently. Your mind becomes quieter, your decisions become sharper, and your presence becomes stronger. Because people can sense when a man is emotionally disciplined. They can sense when he is not desperate for approval, and she notices it too, because deep down she knows calm men are rare. Calm men are difficult to manipulate. Calm men do not beg for attention, and calm men walk away before they lose themselves. And this mindset protects you not only from emotional games, but from emotional destruction, because many men lose years of their lives obsessing over women who never truly value them while neglecting their own growth completely. And the painful truth is, she often respects the man who controls himself more than the man who constantly tries to control her, because self-control signals strength, while emotional instability signals dependence, and dependence destroys attraction faster than silence ever will, which is why you must train yourself daily too. Remain calm under pressure, calm when she ignores you, calm when she acts distant, calm when she posts things to trigger jealousy, calm when she changes suddenly without explanation, because the moment you stop reacting emotionally is the moment your life starts changing in every area. Your confidence grows naturally, your focus returns, your discipline sharpens, your peace becomes protected, and for the first time in a long time, you stop living emotionally enslaved to somebody else's behavior and start becoming the kind of man who remains steady no matter who stays or leaves. Number 2. Stop explaining. Many men talk too much when they feel attacked. The moment she questions them, misunderstands them, pulls away emotionally, becomes cold for no reason, accuses them unfairly, or acts like they are suddenly not enough, they immediately enter defense mode, trying to explain themselves, trying to fix her perception, trying to prove their intentions were pure, trying to make her understand their heart, and this destroys their value completely, because the more a man explains himself emotionally, the more he communicates insecurity, dependence, and fear of losing her approval. And she notices this instantly, even if she never says it directly, because women pay attention to emotional behavior more than words, which is why many men sit confused, wondering why the more they care, explain, chase, reassure, and prove themselves, the colder she becomes. But the answer is simple. She stops respecting the man who constantly seeks validation through explanations, because every long emotional paragraph, every desperate attempt to clear misunderstandings, every emotional over-explanation tells her one thing clearly: your opinion of me matters more than my opinion of myself. And once a man reaches that point, he slowly loses his center completely, because now his emotional stability depends on being understood by her, accepted by her, approved by her. And that is one of the most dangerous mental traps a man can fall into, because it places his peace in somebody else's hands. And many men live like this every day without realizing it, constantly trying to explain their intentions, their loyalty, their actions, their words, their silence, their emotions, while she sits back calmly judging how emotionally affected he becomes every single time tension appears. And the painful truth many men avoid accepting is that somebody who truly values you does not constantly force you to explain your worth to them, because respect naturally creates understanding, while manipulation creates confusion, emotional exhaustion, and endless defending. And this is why emotionally disciplined men speak less, because they understand something powerful. People hear desperation louder than words, and when you over-explain yourself, you unconsciously tell her you are afraid to lose her, afraid to be misunderstood, afraid to walk away, afraid to stand firm in silence. And fear weakens your position immediately, because the strongest men understand they do not need to convince people of their value constantly. They let actions speak, they let consistency speak, they let absence speak when necessary, and they never destroy their dignity trying to force somebody to see their worth. Because if somebody truly wants to misunderstand you, No amount of explaining will change their mind anyway, and many women use this intentionally because they know emotional confusion pulls men into emotional submission. She knows if she acts distant long enough, questions you enough, becomes cold enough, or withdraws affection suddenly, many men will begin chasing emotionally, trying to regain stability again. And once she sees that panic inside him, she knows she controls the emotional direction of the relationship completely, which is exactly why Stoic discipline matters so much, because it teaches you to stay grounded in your own truth. Instead of emotionally collapsing every time somebody misunderstands you, it teaches you that not every accusation deserves defense, not every misunderstanding deserves explanation, and not every emotional test deserves your energy, because calm silence often carries more power than emotional talking ever will. And when you stop over-explaining yourself, something changes deeply inside you, because now you begin valuing your own peace more than temporary approval. You stop trying to rescue every connection. You stop trying to force people to understand your heart, and you start accepting that some people benefit emotionally from keeping you confused, emotionally reactive, and constantly seeking reassurance, especially when they know you fear losing them. And once you recognize this pattern clearly, your entire mindset changes, because now you understand that your value does not decrease simply because somebody refuses to see it. Your worth does not disappear because she suddenly changes emotionally, and your identity should never depend on constantly defending yourself to people who enjoy watching you emotionally struggle for understanding. And this realization frees many men for the first time, because now they stop wasting energy on emotional performances and start investing that energy into themselves instead, into discipline, health, focus, purpose, money, peace, and emotional strength. And ironically, that is exactly when people begin respecting them more. Because a man who no longer over-explains himself becomes emotionally grounded, emotionally disciplined, emotionally stable, and difficult to manipulate. And she notices this shift immediately, because suddenly he is no longer reacting the same way, no longer trying desperately to fix every emotional problem instantly, no longer abandoning his self-respect just to keep her comfortable. And that quiet confidence changes the entire dynamic, because the man who stops over-explaining becomes the man who finally understands his value without needing constant confirmation from anybody else. Number 3. Walk away. Not every argument deserves your attention. She knows exactly how to keep you emotionally trapped without ever saying it directly, because sometimes all she has to do is change her energy, become colder, disrespectful, distant, emotionally unavailable, or suddenly treat you like you are no longer important, and many men instantly abandon their own peace, trying to fix the situation before they even stop to ask themselves one important question: why am I fighting so hard to keep somebody who keeps disturbing my mind? Because deep down, many men are terrified of losing connection, terrified of being alone, terrified that if they walk away, they will never find somebody else. And this fear keeps them stuck in situations that slowly destroy their confidence, discipline, and self-respect every single day, while she continues behaving however she wants, because she sees clearly that he is emotionally attached enough to tolerate behavior that damages him. And this is where walking away becomes one of the strongest decisions a man can ever learn. Because walking away is not quitting, it is choosing yourself before emotional damage becomes your lifestyle. It is understanding that peace is more valuable than attention, and many men lose themselves because they stay too long in situations that drain them mentally, hoping she will suddenly become different one day while ignoring the reality standing directly in front of them. Because when a woman truly values you, respects you, and genuinely wants your presence in her life, she does not constantly create emotional confusion. She does not repeatedly push your patience to its limit. She does not enjoy watching you emotionally exhausted while trying to keep the connection alive. But many men become addicted to emotional struggle because they confuse emotional intensity with love, and this destroys their lives slowly because instead of building themselves, growing stronger, focusing on purpose, health, money, discipline, and emotional stability, they spend years emotionally trapped inside cycles of anxiety, overthinking, confusion, and emotional chasing, while she keeps controlling the emotional direction of the relationship completely. And the painful truth is, she often loses respect for the man who tolerates everything just to keep her, because tolerance without boundaries communicates weakness. And once she sees that you are willing to sacrifice your peace just to avoid losing her, the entire dynamic changes, because now she understands that fear controls you more than self-respect does. And this is why Stoic discipline teaches you something powerful. If something repeatedly destroys your peace, weakens your focus, drains your energy, and removes your emotional stability, distance yourself from it immediately, instead of emotionally negotiating with your own suffering. Because many men sit in toxic situations, praying for change while ignoring every sign directly in front of them, and every day they stay too long. Their confidence weakens a little more, their identity fades a little more, and their emotional dependence grows deeper until they no longer recognize themselves anymore. And she notices this decline too, because women naturally observe emotional strength carefully. She notices when a man becomes emotionally consumed by her behavior. She notices when he loses focus on his purpose. She notices when he starts tolerating disrespect he once would never accept. And the dangerous part is, many men think staying proves loyalty, while not realizing that staying in situations that destroy your dignity only teaches people that your boundaries are weak, and weak boundaries invite more disrespect, more emotional manipulation, and more emotional exhaustion, which is why walking away becomes life-changing, because the moment you finally choose peace over emotional chaos, your mind starts clearing again, your energy returns, your focus sharpens, and your self-respect begins rebuilding itself slowly. And suddenly, you stop waking up anxious, stop checking your phone constantly, stop obsessing over her moods, stop trying to decode every small behavior, because now your emotional state belongs to you again instead of her. And that changes your entire life, because a man who can walk away from emotional confusion becomes dangerous in the best possible way, since he no longer tolerates anything that disturbs his peace consistently. And this mindset transforms every part of his life, because once you learn how to walk away from draining relationships, you also learn how to walk away from fake friendships, disrespectful people, manipulative environments, and situations that pull you away from your purpose. And this is what emotional maturity truly looks like. Not emotional dependence disguised as loyalty, but emotional discipline strong enough to choose peace over attachment. Because attachment without self-respect destroys many men quietly, while they convince themselves they are simply fighting for love. And the truth many refuse to accept is that real love should not constantly destroy your nervous system, ruin your focus, weaken your confidence, and turn your life into emotional survival every day. And once you finally understand this deeply, you stop fearing distance because you realize losing yourself trying to keep somebody is far more painful than losing the connection itself. And that realization gives you power, because now your standards rise, your discipline sharpens, your mind becomes calmer, and your life begins revolving around purpose instead of emotional instability. And ironically, that is when people begin respecting you more, because the man who can walk away peacefully without begging, chasing, or emotionally collapsing becomes unforgettable precisely because he refuses to abandon himself for temporary attention. And if you are finally tired of emotional confusion controlling your peace, the Stoic relationship. Blueprint ebook for men is linked in the comments below, filled with timeless Stoic principles designed to help you regain emotional control, rebuild your self-respect, and become mentally unshakable in relationships and in life. And it is now available in the audiobook version, so you can listen while driving, training, taking a walk, jogging, or building yourself daily. Knowing this life-changing knowledge will always belong to you whenever you need guidance, clarity, or strength again. And in the coming weeks, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint course for men will officially launch to help you apply these principles deeply into your daily life. So comment Blueprint right now if you want early access and want to become one of the first men transforming their mindset, discipline, confidence, and emotional strength permanently. Number 4. Focus on yourself. The biggest mistake men make is becoming obsessed with the situation. She changes her energy, becomes distant, stops giving attention the same way, pulls away emotionally, and suddenly his entire life starts revolving around her behavior instead of his own future. And this happens quietly because at first he tells himself he is just trying to understand things, just trying to fix the connection, just trying to make things work. But slowly his peace disappears completely, because now every morning starts with checking her messages, every night ends with overthinking her behavior, every hour becomes emotional analysis, and while he is mentally trapped inside confusion, his goals start collapsing one by one. His discipline weakens, his focus disappears, his motivation fades, and the worst part is, she often continues living normally while he slowly destroys himself emotionally, trying to hold on to somebody who keeps showing inconsistency. And this is exactly why focusing on yourself becomes one of the most important lessons a man can ever learn, because the moment your life revolves around one woman's behavior, you lose control over your emotions, your decisions, and eventually your identity itself. And many men do not notice how badly they neglect themselves until they finally step back and realize how much time, energy, focus, and emotional stability they sacrificed, chasing temporary validation from somebody who never truly gave them certainty. Because emotional obsession blinds people. It makes them abandon routines, ignore opportunities, lose discipline, stop training, stop building financially, stop growing mentally, and slowly their entire world shrinks down to one thing, her attention. And this creates dangerous emotional dependence, because now every little action from her controls his mood completely. If she replies quickly, he feels relief. If she becomes distant, he feels anxiety. If she shows affection, he feels temporary happiness. And if she ignores him, his entire day becomes mentally ruined. And no man can build a powerful life while living emotionally enslaved to somebody else's behavior like this. Which is why Stoic discipline teaches you to place your energy only into what improves your life directly, instead of wasting your peace trying to control another person's actions, because you cannot control her moods, her choices, her behavior, or her intentions. But you can control your focus, your discipline, your habits, your body, your mindset, your routines, your standards, and your future. And once you fully understand this, your life starts transforming, because instead of chasing emotional certainty from women, you start building certainty within yourself. And that changes the way you walk, speak, think, and carry yourself. Because now your confidence no longer depends on attention, your happiness no longer depends on messages, and your emotional state no longer depends on whether somebody chooses you or not. And this is where true growth begins, because every painful situation can either destroy a man emotionally or build him into somebody stronger, depending on how he responds to it. And many men waste heartbreak while others use it as fuel. Fuel for discipline, fuel for growth, fuel for self-respect, fuel for transformation. And the difference between those two outcomes is focus. Because one man sits emotionally stuck replaying memories, while another uses the same pain to rebuild his entire life stronger than before. And this is why you must stop making women the center of your existence, because the moment your purpose disappears, Emotional instability takes over your life completely, and many men suffer not because of women alone, but because they built lives with no mission bigger than emotional attachment, which is why they collapse so deeply every time a relationship changes, because they have nothing grounding them outside of it. And this is dangerous because people naturally lose respect for individuals who lose themselves emotionally over attention, including women themselves. Since emotional dependence creates pressure, while purpose creates attraction, and once you shift your energy back onto yourself, something incredible starts happening because now your body improves, your confidence grows naturally, your mind becomes sharper, your standards rise, your money improves, your routines become stronger, and for the first time in a long time, you begin respecting yourself again instead of emotionally chasing validation externally. And ironically, this is often the exact moment she suddenly notices your absence more, because emotionally grounded men become difficult to replace since their energy no longer screams desperation, neediness, or emotional instability, and whether she returns or not eventually stops mattering because the true transformation is no longer about her at all. It is about the version of yourself you become when you finally stop wasting your life obsessing over somebody else's inconsistent behavior and start investing fully into your own future instead. Number 5. Detach emotionally. This is the highest level of power. Emotional detachment changes everything because the moment you stop needing constant attention, reassurance, validation, and emotional certainty from women, your entire mindset transforms completely, and suddenly situations that once destroyed your peace no longer control you the same way. Because now your happiness does not depend on whether she texts you, chooses you, stays loyal to you, approves of you, or gives you emotional comfort every day. And this is important because many men spend years emotionally trapped by women simply because they never learn how to separate their self-worth from female attention, which is why every small change in her behavior shakes them deeply. Every delayed reply creates anxiety. Every distant moment creates panic. Every disagreement creates emotional instability, and every sign of emotional withdrawal becomes mental torture, because they built their entire emotional identity around being wanted by her. And once somebody gains that much emotional influence over your mind, they control your peace completely whether they deserve it or not. And this is exactly why emotional detachment is freedom, because it removes the emotional chains that keep many men mentally imprisoned for years. And contrary to what many believe, detachment does not mean becoming cold, cruel, or emotionless. It means learning how to remain emotionally grounded regardless of external circumstances. It means caring without losing yourself. It means loving without abandoning your dignity. And it means understanding that your peace must never depend entirely on another human being, because people change constantly, emotions change constantly, and anyone who builds their emotional stability entirely around another person eventually suffers deeply when that person changes direction unexpectedly, and many women unconsciously test emotional dependence all the time because attention is power, emotional influence is power, and she notices immediately when a man becomes emotionally attached beyond reason, because his behavior changes completely. He becomes available all the time, emotionally reactive, overly forgiving, fearful of conflict, fearful of distance, fearful of losing her. And once fear controls him, she naturally loses respect, because emotional dependence weakens masculine presence faster than almost anything else, which is why detached men stand out so strongly, because they move differently. They stay calm during uncertainty. They do not chase desperately for reassurance. They do not collapse emotionally when somebody pulls away. And they do not beg people to stay in their lives because their identity remains stable regardless of who comes or goes. And this creates a completely different energy around them because emotionally detached men are focused, disciplined, centered, and difficult to manipulate. And many people misunderstand this strength because society constantly teaches men to seek validation externally, to measure their worth through attention, relationships, approval, and acceptance. But the problem with external validation is that it creates emotional slavery because your confidence rises and falls based on other people's behavior instead of your own internal stability. And this is why Stoic thinking becomes life-changing, because it teaches you to master your inner world before trying to control anything outside yourself. It teaches you to observe emotions without instantly obeying them. It teaches you to pause before reacting impulsively. And it teaches you that true strength comes from self-control, not emotional chaos. Because every emotional impulse does not deserve action. Every painful thought does not deserve obsession. And every emotional craving does not deserve surrender. And once you start applying this mindset daily, your entire life shifts, because now women no longer distract you from your purpose easily. People no longer manipulate your emotions easily, and emotional situations no longer consume your peace completely. And this freedom is powerful, because for the first time you start living life on your own terms, instead of constantly reacting to everybody else emotionally. And the deeper truth many men eventually discover is that emotional attachment often destroys their potential more than failure itself, because instead of focusing on growth, discipline, purpose, and building meaningful lives, they become emotionally consumed by chasing temporary emotional comfort from women who may not even value them deeply. And years disappear this way while their dreams remain untouched. Their discipline weakens, and their confidence slowly fades. But emotional detachment changes this entirely, because now your energy returns to you, your focus returns to you, your ambition returns to you, and your life begins moving forward again with strength and clarity. And ironically, this is often when women begin respecting you more, because they can sense when a man no longer needs validation desperately. They can sense when his emotional state belongs to himself instead of external approval. And that grounded energy becomes magnetic naturally, because emotional control signals strength, while emotional dependence signals weakness. And eventually you reach a point where your peace matters more than attention. Your purpose matters more than temporary emotional highs, and your self-respect matters more than keeping connections that constantly drain your spirit. And that is when life truly changes, because now you are no longer living emotionally controlled by fear of loss, fear of loneliness, or fear of somebody walking away. Instead, you become steady, focused, disciplined, calm, and emotionally free. And that freedom becomes the foundation for every powerful thing you build from that moment forward. If you are tired of emotional weakness, tired of giving women control over your peace, and ready to rebuild yourself into a disciplined, emotionally grounded man, then grab the Stoic Relationship Blueprint ebook for men, linked in the comments right now, filled with timeless Stoic principles that will transform your life immediately, and now available in the audiobook version, so you can listen while training, driving, taking a walk, or building your future. Because the truth is, many men spend their entire lives lost in emotional confusion, simply because nobody ever teaches them these truths. So comment, "No more chasing," if you are ready to take your power back, like this video, and subscribe to help more men escape years of regret and emotional manipulation. And in the coming weeks, the Stoic Relationship Blueprint course for men will officially launch, built from more than 2,000 years of Stoic principles that have stood the test of time, while the world keeps distracting men away from this kind of life-changing knowledge. And now it is finally your turn to apply these principles to your relationships, your mindset, your discipline, and your entire life.